I never understood what made Stalker special until I actually gave it a chance and played it, and boy was I in for a surprise. I did what any normal person would do: skipped the first two games and started with the third one, which is Stalker Call of Pripyat. Pripyat, I think. The Stalker game series developed by GSG Game World is somewhat of an underrated gem with a global cult following. They are a trilogy of games that take on the role of depicting an alternate history within this world. The Chernobyl incident occurs twice rather than once. The second time Chernobyl is hit with a blast of radiation, it changes the landscape around it, causing all sorts of issues. There is no clear cause within the game lore, but the area is contaminated beyond any repair, leaving it extremely hostile and teeming with unknown creatures born from mutation and other elements. The Chernobyl exclusion zone is then explored by various factions, known by some in the game world as stalkers, hunters of rare artifacts that are formed in this zone.
Однако дерьмово ситуевина складывается. Сколько уже тут паримся, а подмоги почти никакой. И сколько тут еще дряни всякой. Чистить и чистить.
The things that make Call of Pripyat such a phenomenal experience are too many to number, but suffice to say that this game probably has one of the richest atmospheres I've ever seen in a game. A couple of stellar lighting, a bleak color palette, and deliberate world design, and you're left with dead trees that cast long shadows on a sunburnt meadow, the sound of a stream flowing down a ravine, crickets chirping here and there while crows circle above a dead bandit's corpse left near a rock. Now, imagine the superbly competent, highly reactive AI that breathes twisted life in these twisted landscapes. Packs of mutated bulls roam down the hills, wild dogs hunt bandits in store camps, hordes of zombies relentlessly shuffle towards you, evocative of man's distant demise. Stalker takes the Darwin approach in game difficulty in the sense that in the zone, it's survival of the fittest. Those most suited to the environment will survive, and I was definitely not prepared for what was ahead of me. There's power in the night, there's terror in the darkness. Nighttime was terrifying. Fading light means more than just the end of another day. Night is when terrible things emerge from their sleep in thick soft flesh and hot blood. Coupled with awesome sound design, the night is a haunting and unforgettable masterpiece. Combined with the environment and the atmosphere, it is a very special mix that creates the ultimate immersion. The first time you enter the Dark Valley location, you're slightly scared. Coupled with the awesome sound design, the night is a haunting and unforgettable masterpiece. For me, it's the music and the ambient sound that make the experience much more scarier. Combined with the environment and the atmosphere, it is a very special mix that creates the ultimate immersion. The first time you enter the Dark Valley location, you're slightly scared and feel very uncomfortable. Then you enter the research lab and find out what real fear feels like. The first time I saw a bloodsucker, I almost quit the game. I was covering behind something because I had something further ahead in the tunnel. Then the indicator goes green. Still can't see anything. Then something slams a door shut and my mind was like, nope, I'm not dealing with this trap. So like any normal person, I decide to sprint the hell out because it's tea time. I'm not white, I'm black. I decide to turn around and get out and wait for my nerves to cool down. And the moment I turn around, there it was, screaming at me in the face. The bloodsucker. Those invisible monsters made me out for the game so many times. I had another encounter going through a tunnel and heard strange noises nearby, but at this point hadn't seen anything too out of the ordinary, and had no idea there was much supernatural in the game at this point. Suddenly, I was smacked from behind and did a double take, turned to see a blur and some shiny eyes. I tried shooting it with my almost broken AK and miss every shot as it's moving way too fast. It started circling me. I was literally shaking and just out for the game and jogged out of my computer room and didn't go back to playing for a week. A truly horrifying experience. And the scariest part about bloodsuckers is like they sleep standing up. Like, how the hell do you even sleep standing up? The only animal I know that does that is actually a giraffe. Giraffes actually like sleep standing up, which is kind of weird. Imagine having to sleep while standing up. Very weird. You start off recording, which gets less noise and also scream. Stalker has an interesting spin on difficulty. Bullets kill you faster, but your bullets also kill faster. You have plenty of backpack space, but if you want to use a protective suit, you can't carry as much. If you want to carry more guns, you have to have less armor or less ammo, or compromise by saying, okay, I'll go out into the field fully equipped, but that means I will not be able to carry very much back. Much like Fallout, except instead of being able to carry 260 pounds, you might be able to carry 60 or 80 pounds, and the more you carry, the less you can sprint. Lethality was high in both directions, or I can say, is high in both directions. If you could get a clean line of fire on a target, you could drop them with a well-placed burst, but if you couldn't find cover, you were in just as much danger as them. Later in the game, this became even more pronounced, as you often had to choose between a scoped gun that was useful at range or a powerful gun with lots of ammo that you had to get much closer to use. Word of advice, if you have bad aim, just get a shotgun and pray for the best. Weight and equipment condition was a big concern. You couldn't just carry 20,000 rounds for your machine gun and go spray and pray. If you carried a large amount of ammo, you didn't have room to loot the more valuable artifacts, medkits, and other gear, so you usually wound up leaving stashes everywhere to restock or make multiple trips to sell to town. Sometimes you'd find incredible gear like guns and like guns that weighed half as much, or rare weapons that used common ammo, but if you used them too much, they fell apart. So you had to rush in the best stuff for when you really needed it. These are the things that make S.T.A.L.K.E.R an amazing game. The game is truly unforgiving. You need to inch your way through the game and think, save before taking every step. There was also a bit of a hunger aspect to, though that was minimum. Okay, let me just do that again. There was a bit of a hunger aspect, though that was minimum. You had to eat, but enemies dropped so much bread and sausage that starvation wasn't really a big deal. Radiation was a bigger concern. Anti-radiation equipment was expensive, and vodka was heavy. Usually radiation wasn't a problem, but some extremely lucrative catches of gear, especially in the early game, were in zones of intense radiations that required both radiation resistance gear artifacts, and anti-radiation to safely loot. If you didn't have it, you would basically die because of radiation. S.T.A.L.K.E.R does not consist of one single open world map, but rather an assortment of locations based within the same geographical location. One thing I especially like is that in S.T.A.L.K.E.R, the player character is not the center of the universe. In most open world games, battles between NPCs only occur when the player character is right there to witness it and participate. On S.T.A.L.K.E.R, different factions and monsters can go fight each other in the distance, whether you are there or not. It's a dynamic sandbox environment, not a series of scripted events centered on the player's presence. And S.T.A.L.K.E.R co-op prepared numerous times I've seen animals hunting and then dragging the corpse back to their lair. You can just be wandering around and a group of stalkers who get attacked by dogs. It's a random non-scripted event. Or the other day, I was walking through a zone and saw two groups of stalkers, one neutral and one friendly. I went towards them to trade, but as soon as I came close, the two groups started shooting at each other. One group was bandits. One friendly stalker did. I see that the bandit goes towards the left friendly stalker, who is lying on the ground dying. He goes to him, talks about sorry but gotta finish our business with his pistol drawn out. I quickly kill the bandits and give a medkit to the friendly stalker. He gets up, thanks me, and starts looting the bandit, picks up a gun, and goes to mourn his friend. This was a wonderful thing. Sometimes you can see stalkers around anomalies trying to collect artifacts. Sometimes they manage to do it, but sometimes they got caught and die. The world is living, breathing thing in those games, and you're not the centerpiece. You are just another stalker with his own goals. Another stalker with his own goals. Compared to other AI, S.T.A.L.K.E.R simulates human-like decision-making. Instead of waiting for the player to enter the vicinity, the AI is proactive based on certain rules, will make decisions on their own, the exception being important NPCs that facilitate the main story task. NPCs that are essential to the main story projection are static in their placement and only move from their post once their quest line has ended. The world is dynamic, which leads to so many stories. Despite the game being so old, it has so much potential and elements that randomly mix and sometimes create unforgettable in-game story. Like, yeah.